Thank you, Shelley. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for April's Tech Talk Tuesday, or what I actually like to call Tech Talk with Pratik. I'm your host, Pratik Patel. I'm a technology consultant with Ingram Micro, and my goal, as usual, has always been to really showcase the latest technologies and really help to uncover new opportunities for my partners and resellers. Over the past few months, if you've been with us, you know that we've dissected several use cases that covered retail, healthcare, and manufacturing verticals. In fact, back in January for a retail use case, when I asked Everseen about what happens once a self-checkout transaction is complete, they mentioned it gets stored for later analysis. That got me thinking about how and where that data gets stored. I understand that, it's important to analyze the data once a particular event or a transaction is complete, because it allows really both humans and AI to keep learning and actually become better. So from a holistic approach, having a storage solution is important, no matter whether it's leveraging on-premises or the cloud. Additionally, there could be other reasons why that data must be stored, something like due to, let's say, data backup policies, privacy or compliance mandates, or security reasons. Whatever the case may be that's driving that need, data storage, data management, and data protection are really integral part of a complete solution. Now I know you might be thinking, what happened to the AI and edge theme that that we had going on? Well, I actually believe that it's still unclear how storage will be, really work with edge AI solutions. But it's still important to keep in mind that the goal is to deliver a complete solution to your customer. So in that regard, we need to think about all the components that are necessary for a successful delivery, for the edge and edge computing use cases. That's why I thought for this tech talk, we could investigate storage solutions that can be implemented for retail, healthcare, and manufacturing use cases. What the ones we kind of discussed previously. For that reason, I have experts from Veeam, NetApp, and Lenovo to help us to not only understand the what, but the why behind the need for storage solutions. Joining me today are Ron Martin, Senior Solutions Architect with Veeam, Roger Yarish, OEM Business Development Manager with NetApp, and Mark Clayton, Principal Solutions Architect with Lenovo. If you've been with me for a while, I've actually, for any of these tech talks before, you'll recognize these names as, that they're my go-to resources for storage, data management, and data protection. So let's kind of start out with, getting to know them a little better. Hi, Ron. I'm so happy you're able to join us today. Can you tell us about your role at Veeam and a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I actually started in the industry. I got my start as a software developer. So I worked for many years as a developer, and I still love to dabble in it. For the last, I would say, 20 years, I've worked for software manufacturers, more of like an SE manager. And for the last almost 10 years, I've worked in more of an alliances engineering role. Currently, I'm part of Veeam's product management team with a Lenovo alliance focus, and I primarily work with my Lenovo counterparts on new offerings. And when needed, I'm the liaison between Lenovo and our product engineering team.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you, Ron. Hey, Roger. I really appreciate you joining us today. Can you tell us about your role at NetApp and really what really excites you about this NetApp and Lenovo partnership?
Yeah, so I help manage the OEM for North America. I handle the Eastern United States and Canada. I came from a technical background going all the way back to microchip development. I've been in the storage space since about 2005. Did a stint at at IBM where I managed Bank of America, and I've been working with NetApp and ONTAP technology for about 12 years now. I'm really excited to be working on this call and be working with Lenovo because I think this relationship opens up a lot of opportunities that NetApp didn't have any chance of hitting on their own. So I think there's a real synergy between the two companies and how we go to market where we can both win.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you, Roger. Hi, Mark. I'm glad you're able to join us. I know you've been a regular on my tech talks before. So, can you tell us about your role at Lenovo and really, what we could see from Lenovo at Accelerate, the event that's happening in May?
Sure. So, Mark Clayton, the principal architect for Lenovo. Been in IT about 27 years. Been in backup and storage since about 2002. Been doing NetApp technology since 2006. So, I've been lucky enough to be a NetApp customer, inside SE, outside SE, GSI partner, and now an OEM partner. Right. I'm also a member of the NetApp A team. So, in regards to Lenovo Insight, you're going to see basically this is the big consumer show, right? But not only are you going to see the latest laptops and tablets and cell phones and VR goggles and so forth, but you're also going to see the latest revisions of the data center stuff. So the new servers that have just come out, new Intel and AMD platforms, particularly the water cooled platforms that are a lot of customers are really looking into right now. Because it helps with the carbon offsets and so forth. So that's been a huge topic. And then you're also going to see some of the latest storage, that we have out there. So it's going to be something for a little bit of everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Sounds exciting. I usually hear that, there's always new stuff coming out, and it's always like, announced around around this time. So definitely great news here. Yeah. To my partners and resellers on the call today, your job is to really just listen, absorb, and really identify use cases where the solutions, we'll be discussing today, they could be positioned to address all your customers' needs. So let's get started. I know we have a lot to discuss today. Hi, Ron. Let me start with you. I know everyone in my audience knows about Veeam. It's because I've actually been one of those one of the proponents where I'm always discussing that it's an easy way to really deliver a holistic solution to customers, really by bundling that Lenovo storage solution with the Veeam platform. But really, just kind of level set everybody. Could you provide a quick summary of what Veeam is and really what the what Veeam solutions are really revolutionizing how customers really back up, recover, and really manage their data?
Yeah, sure, Pratik. Happy to. So, one of the things that struck me is I found this particular slide, and I've been with Veeam for some time now, and it's almost always surprising to me how we have evolved over the past years. I mean, most people know that we got our start in the VMware world. We started as a virtual backup solution, backing up vSphere, and then soon after that Hyper-V. And you probably know that we added Nutanix AHV 2018 or so. You may not know that we actually support Red Hat virtualization now. Now there are a couple small caveats with that, but even for production workloads, we do support Rev as far as hypervisors go. So we're actually up to four hypervisors. But we know that everybody is not going to virtualize literally everything. So in probably 2017 or so, we started shipping agents for Windows and Linux. So if you had a cloud workload, if you had a physical workload, if you had some other kind of machine that we didn't support, natively API wise through a hypervisor API, that you could take care of those workloads. And we've evolved those solutions as well, so that we now support AIX and Solaris for some time, and then more recently Mac OS. So, and then we're evolving the capabilities that we've created around the Linux and Windows workloads to work as closely as possible with the other platforms as well. And then we see the trend to SaaS as well, and obviously the biggest player in this space is Microsoft 365, the artist formerly known as Office 365, which we supported for many years now in terms of OneDrive and Exchange and SharePoint, and then more recently we added support for Microsoft Teams. And then one of the things that you'll hear a little bit more about next month from us is our upcoming support for Salesforce. So again, we want to make sure that we're not just covering your on-prem workloads, but your off-prem as well. And in the same way, we don't want every recovery to have to be a full image level recovery, right? We want you to be able to tactically recover at the application level. So for years now, we've supported Microsoft SQL, Microsoft Active Directory, the Microsoft Suite, Microsoft Exchange, the suite basically. And then again, we've evolved that application level support over time too, to include Oracle, SAP HANA, PostgreSQL, and then we'll continue to add and evolve there too. And then more recently, unstructured data. So if you have, a NAS, if you have like a DM and you're doing NFS or SMB shares or both, or if you just have, file servers, general purpose servers that are serving up NFS or SMB, we can cover your unstructured data too. It doesn't have to be an application or an image level backup. And then the last many years, we've worked with the major cloud providers. First actually from an agent perspective, right? So we since we didn't have an AWS or an Azure or a Google Cloud native solution, we could always back it up with agents. But in more recent years, we've developed solutions that are native to AWS, native to Azure, native to Google Cloud. For IBM Cloud, we have some native VMware solutions up there. And then most recently, we recognize that containers are the coming wave, and our support for Kubernetes via the acquisition of Kasten. So again, our idea is to give you a single platform for backup for all your workloads, but it's not only about backup. We do obviously do that. We do it really well. I talked about some of our hybrid cloud approaches. So we also do something called cloud mobility. So in the old days with our product, you could take a VMware backend and restore it to restore it to Azure or restore it to AWS. But then you'd have to back it up with an agent or whatever. Now we have native solutions. Now we can also make that application, make that workload completely mobile. So if you can, you take it, you migrate it to cloud. Maybe you want to repatriate it. Then all you have to do is just restore it back to VMware, restore it back to Hyper-V, restore it back to AHV. We give you that sort of mobility capability. We've also added ransomware capabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about those as we roll through the presentation. And then disaster recovery. One of the things that happens, Veeam, is we talk all about backup all the time, and we sometimes fail to mention we're a very robust DR capability. So we have, asynchronous replication. We have near real-time replications. We have ways to do recovery from a variety of platforms, including ONTAP. And then we have monitoring to wrap it all with Veeam 1. And then I guess Pratik kind of does marry into more of an AI use case, but we have the ability, we don't want your backups to be just, that insurance policy that you hope you never use, right? We have some capabilities with what we call our data integration API and other backup mounting capabilities to actually let you use your backup. So if you did want to do some analysis on, what your database state looked like a year ago, or the changes that have occurred over time, we can mount any backup virtually anywhere and have you analyze it. So that's probably a little longer answer than you wanted, Pratik, but that's kind of how we've evolved in the last many years.
No, that's perfect, because I think, it gives our customers and our partners really that flexibility that they need. So, that kind of leads into my next question, Ron. I realize the partnership between Veeam and Lenovo is really critical, for my partners and value-added resellers, because it allows them to really deliver that modern day protection solution, to their customers. Could you help us understand why that partnership is really important for them? And also, how does it really enable them to deliver that holistic approach that I kind of talked about before by leveraging on-premises and cloud solutions?
Yeah, so there are several angles here. I mean, one of them, and the one I always really refer to usually first, is that the Lenovo partnership is unique among all of our Alliance ecosystem in that it represents, I think, the most comprehensive breadth of platform integrations we support. So you think about us being here today. So you think about ONTAP, right? So the long-standing ONTAP integration we have that has Genesis and our NetApp relationship, where we can do things at the very granular integrated level, like backup from storage snapshot, like backup from secondary, even more recently being able to do orchestration, disaster recovery orchestration directly from ONTAP snapshots to other other integrations such as our Nutanix AHV and Lenovo HX. So we natively integrate with AHV, or you think about Lenovo VX with vSAN and some of the special sauce we have for ensuring optimal data locality backups from a vSAN distributed file system sort of perspective, or even there are a number of Microsoft synergies as well, like with Microsoft 365. Lenovo has a strong partnership with Microsoft there. They have a strong partnership with Azure, as do we, and as well as there are a number of initiatives that we have in the works that I can't quite talk about yet. So lots of good offerings, good integrations in the works, and one of the other things that we're going to talk about some of the advanced recovery capabilities that we have within our product suite. One of the things that we just assume is that you have really solid primary backup storage performance, like for instance from DE series, for instance, so that that we have that underpinning that we need from the Lenovo partnership there. And the other thing that we've actually evolved a lot in the last I'd say probably year and a half is really a very strong ransomware story with Lenovo, in that ranging from preventative sort of things, like if I do get attacked, I know that I can recover, like with hardened immutable backup storage like we support with Veeam, to native capabilities like SnapLock with ONTAP. We have some rudimentary detection capabilities with Veeam 1, and then with some other partnerships that Lenovo has, they have some more advanced detection capabilities. It really rounds out to a very scalable, very very compelling ransomware story as well. So these are really just to name a few. So yeah, customers can realize substantial benefits with the joint partnership, both now and as we move into the future.
So Ron, actually, we did have a question here.
Yeah.
You might have touched on it, but I just want to kind of go over it just so that if you want to maybe emphasize a little bit more. The question really is in today's ransomware climate, immutable storage is really something that our clients are routinely telling us that it's important for them. When will Veeam support backing up NAS to a hardened Linux repository?
I can't let any cats out of any bags, but we're gonna. I may mention a few things. Veeam is in 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. I don't want to pre-announce anything.
We're all friends here. You could let us know.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Ron.
So
Roger, the same question to you as it pertains to the NetApp and Lenovo partnership. You kind of touched on a little bit before, but since Lenovo has some really marquee storage solutions that have really resulted from that partnership, can you elaborate on that partnership and the offerings that have really resulted?
Sure. I think one of the things in today's world is a lot of people, when they define partnership, they look at it as a relationship of I give you product, you give me money, and then bam, we're partners. That's not what this Lenovo relationship is. We're trying to form a real partnership. NetApp, when we looked at our market segmentation, we really saw that there were gaps in where we were selling and how we were selling. So we had an option. We could try and do everything ourselves, or we can enlist people who know how to do this already and just piggyback on them. And that's really where this relationship came from. And there's multiple levels to this relationship. There's an OEM where we take 2 of our product lines and Lenovo sells it as the DE and DM, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We have a resale relationship. It's not what we want to go to first, but if we need any of those other NetApp products that Lenovo isn't OEMing, we have a method to get them out to the customers. The last place we partnered is NetApp just wasn't getting that success in China. So we went so far as to sell our Chinese operations to Lenovo, and we formed a joint venture called Lenovo NetApp Incorporated. I know it's not the most creative name in the world for a joint venture. 51% owned by Lenovo. So this is a real partnership, because otherwise we wouldn't have given up a 51% or a majority stake in that business. So we're really seeing, and we're really trying to hit the market differently. So this isn't we're selling to this customer and Lenovo's going in and selling to this customer. We're really trying to look at the market different. It's we hit them high, you hit them low strategy. We've taken up our features that we have in ONTAP, and NetApp tends to sell it as a whole buffet, which means we tend to go up stack. We do really good with big. We don't do good well with scale, and that's where Lenovo comes into the world. NetApp is used to selling, tens of thousands of systems a year. Lenovo probably sells tens of thousands of laptops a week or even a day. So they have that supply chain. They have that capability to get it out and hit this with velocity that we were missing. And that lets us, I'll go to my next slide with the product. We're changing the way we package together the features. So with NetApp, you get everything. With Lenovo, we can give your customer the right set of features they need at the right price, and they're not paying for things they don't need. So we can be, more prescriptive and really help customers succeed. The two big products that we brought over to Lenovo is the DM series and the DE series. The DM, full feature, scale up, scale out, does NAS, does SAN, does object, has connectors to the cloud, has immutable snapshots, has snap lock technology to guarantee that even the primary version of those that files can't be overwritten. DE, simpler product, SAN only, very well-rounded in terms of the standard features. It has snapshots, it has replication. Sets up in about 30 minutes. The biggest joke I tell people is the hardest part about selling a DE is remembering the IP address to go to get to the web client. And that's normally what I search for on the internet, and then it's set up in about 30 minutes. The box, because it doesn't have NAS and some of these other features, the performance of it's unbelievable. So we have a lot of customers, big customers using it for high performance database. We have a lot of smaller customers using it because it just works and it runs and it's simple to set up and simple to maintain.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for that, Roger. I was thinking, let me think about when we're talking about the edge and AI, aspect of it, for me, it was really like, except for like compliance reasons, I'm not really seeing a specific need that would require storage at the edge. For example, what I'm thinking is like in an inference use case where AI is like visually inspecting items, say like on a conveyor belt or something like that, like to designate the item if it's going to be a pass or fail kind of a test. What would be the benefit of really storing that data? Really be once that inspection is complete. So my question to you is really that, to help us get a better understanding, what are you really hearing from and seeing really from your customers regarding this topic? And where do you see the future of storage solutions and edge computing going?
All right. The edge is bifurcating a little bit right now. So in the traditional world, we do data center to data center, and ONTAP has some of the most robust replication and data movement technology on the market. A lot of these edge points are too small to have that heavy of a piece of software there. So we're really seeing the edge go into those two different parts. When there's expertise and a scale at the edge, we have ONTAP solutions, particularly the DM3 and the DM5, that might fit there. So we're talking about like a large scale manufacturing. This might be an automotive manufacturing line where they're doing some of the image recognition, like you're talking about, checking welds, checking that all the screws are put in. They're probably going to have the IT expertise at the edge to maintain that and run it. At a lot of smaller production facilities, small drug manufacturing warehouses where they're just spitting out pill packs and they're making sure the pills are there, what we're seeing is instead of there being a heavy piece of storage software or there being a storage array at the edge, we're seeing the application start to be that data mover. So you're seeing NoSQL databases replicating from the edge to a core. So instead of having all the shards at the edge, you're putting a shard on the core. That's your backup for your NoSQL database. We're seeing applications themselves saying, I'm going to handle the replication from the edge to the core. That way you can do some of your real-time analytics, and you can do your analytics that are important to that location at the edge. And then we can bring it back to this core location. And at that core location, we can start doing some more robust analysis among multiple lines, analysis among multiple facilities. And then that way we can start to try and isolate maybe why the line in Detroit works better than the line in Flint. What's going on? What are the differences between the two sites? The other benefit of putting it into a core location like that is we don't want to have a backup guy at every edge site. now we have the data all at the core. We can make a more robust repository. We can put in our processes for backup and data protection there, and we're protecting all the data. We don't have to spread that expertise around. The other benefit is, as part of this, we can do some of the TTL and pipelining from the edge to the core. So we're getting the pure data. We can break it into smaller chunks, optimize that data cleansing for the edge locations instead of trying to put that all in the center. So it really breaks the problem into more manageable chunks. The other benefit is, once we get it all into a core location, not only can we consolidate some of the analytics and machine learning we might want to do with the data, with ONTAP, we now have a pipeline to the cloud. So we can get to the cloud with CVO. If you wanted to do a long-term data store, we can tier to S3 in the cloud. So we get a lot of different options. And that's really where I see the edge to core going. I do suspect, as we see the number of edges increase, and it is going to increase exponentially every year for the future, and those edges start to get bigger, I think we're going to see a software ONTAP product go to the edge. NetApp has one today. It's really too heavy for a lot of use cases. This is just my opinion. I think it's going to lean up, and I think we're going to push that. And then for some of those medium-sized locations, we're going to start to see that edge to core to cloud pipeline come back on ONTAP, or the application. It's whatever's going to fit best. So it's going to give you opportunities and options that you didn't have before.
Okay, so there seems to be like lots of options that are, possibilities in the future. So that's good.
Yeah. So today we're doing it with the app for big locations. We still see a lot of people might consider it more of a remote office, back office type scenario, but we are still seeing like small DM3s and 5s going into these small locations and replicating back. Like ONTAP has one of the most robust many-to-one, one-to-many, cascading replication technologies on the market. When you look at the use cases there and how you can set up these topographies, it's kind of mind-blowing what your options are.
Okay, perfect. So Mark, pretty much something similar to what Roger kind of talked about. One thing I was thinking, over the past few months, I've really been discussing a lot of the edge AI use cases for like retail and healthcare environments, that really need to ensure that the data is really, it's being, that the data that's being generated is really stored and backed up locally or in the cloud, specifically really for security, privacy, or really compliance reasons. Could you elaborate on, what type of storage solutions would really work, in those verticals, not specifically to edge AI, but really something in those verticals. And then, additionally, I can think of like BCDR as really one example of what I've actually seen a lot of partners use. What is like an interesting use case that, that you've kind of, come across that, makes it unique?
Sure. So within the DM series within ONTAP, I've been dealing with a lot of universities, a lot of retail, a lot of healthcare recently. That obviously with ransomware and malware, that's first thing top of mind, right? So they want to know how secure it is. So when you have capabilities like multi-factor authentication and on-box encryption, and you're talking about being able to logically separate the data in between departments, what we call we're segregating SVMs, right? Storage virtual machines. Those used to be typically used for like multi-tenancies, like in large MSPs, to bring on multi-customers to the same storage array. Well, now we're seeing customers actually use them in between departments. So being able to logically separate HR data from financial data, from intellectual IP, property data, and that way, if there were a bad actor, to get onto the network, he could only see the data that was presented to that single SVM gateway that he was able to obtain access to, right? So we're also able to segregate things like printers and thermostats and so forth. The processes that need to and IoT devices that need to talk to a specific volume, we can make sure that that's all they're talking to, right? So very, very many layers to that security onion there. And then Roger mentioned earlier how our snapshots, right, on the system have been immutable since day one, since their existence, right? So they've been read-only, forever. So, and then on top of that, we've had indelibility of SnapLock, right? So not only could since 2002. It's been around. So we've been immutable and indelible since at least 2002. So not only can you not overwrite them with snapshots, but then now you can't delete them with snap lock, right? So this is a conversation that we've been able to have forever, for over 20 years. So that's great. And then, like Ron was mentioning, the fact that he's able to take those snapshots and no matter what form they're in, and go ahead and move them off to a DE target, and then still keep them immutable and safe is just the cherry on top of the relationship, right? You asked about an example of use cases. One of the things that I'm seeing that I recently worked on was I got two examples. One of them is a DM and a DE. One of them is a hobby store that everybody is aware of that is implementing self-checkout, and they're actually utilizing the DE for that process. So they're the good thing about Lenovo is we were able to satisfy the entire stack, right? So we're able to do servers, switches, and storage, and so they're running their application on our servers with NVIDIA GPUs, and they're to be as quick as possible for what they're needing, and then they're direct attaching a DE to that server as the storage for that application. So the cameras are monitoring the self-checkout for any potential theft, but also accountability and to make sure and accuracy of the self-checkout, right? So that's being implemented right now, and so far the POC that they did, they were extremely happy with and satisfied that's going to work. Well, actually, I have two DM examples too. What you're talking about edge AI as well. There is a large pet food manufacturer that did a POC of a DM that it was very interesting because they are doing AI on their dog food and the changing up flavors and ingredients and so forth, and do the dogs like them, do they not like them, and utilizing DM, they are able to see when they give these dogs the food based upon their behavioral habits of the dogs. They can tell whether they liked or didn't like the food. So that was kind of interesting. And then last is a large retailer that is utilizing DM to back up a large SAP HANA environment to actually run an inventory for all their stores. So it's one of those things where we're pretty much, I don't want to say the Swiss Army knife, but the use case for any vertical. We do everything from healthcare to oil and gas to pretty much you name it. There's nothing that we don't help out with, and we have the different sizes and tiers to help out in any scenario.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, like you said, Swiss Army knife of versatility there. That's perfect. So then, Mark, I have a lot of my partners are cloud first. So, but I wanted to kind of mention that, that the talk about on-prem storage really shouldn't really detract from the idea that, they can still leverage the cloud. Because I know with the Lenovo DM series, really the users can leverage the public cloud platforms such as AWS, Azure, Microsoft, Google Cloud to really store data in the cloud and essentially, allow the users to put the data in the lowest price storage as they possibly can. For that reason, could you help us understand what those functionalities are in the DM series and, how they really actually benefit the user?
Sure. So I'll give two examples there. So Roger started to mention some of it earlier with what we call Cloud Volumes ONTAP, which is essentially a virtualized ONTAP that is able to run in all the major cloud providers, right? So IBM, GCP, AWS, Azure, even Ali Cloud, if you're on that side of the world. So that would be a customer managed ONTAP instance that they could either go to the marketplace today, swipe the card, and it's up and running in 30 minutes, or they could bring your own, buy a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year license from us that would make it a cheaper hourly rate to run in the cloud. And now you have full functioning ONTAP capabilities similar that you would have on-prem. So you would have the same inline dedupe and compression, and CIFS and NFS and iSCSI capabilities, and that would allow you to leverage anything else out of that hyperscaler's portfolio that you might need to bang away on some of that data. And then you're able to take the results of that analysis and then just replicate it back down to on-premise, for long-term storage, right? That's just one example. And now there's several different flavors. NetApp has done a fantastic job of partnering with the cloud providers and doing things like, so you have CVO, which is customer managed. You have CVS, that would be in like GCP or in AWS, that would be either hyperscaler managed, but yet customer utilized. So kind of like a Dropbox, right? It's just always there. You can just create a volume and mount to it and be on your way, right? Then you have things like Azure NetApp Files, which is actually a Microsoft product that allows you to do CIFS, NFS, and iSCSI, and within minutes you can have NFS mount and be able to replicate data in its native format up to Azure and go ahead and use stuff that way. And then recently you have Amazon's FSx. So that is a fully managed ONTAP environment that for AWS, right? Now, those are either NetApp branded options, or they are actually branded by and owned by the hyperscalers. All right, so FSx is an AWS product, ANF is an Azure product. So where do we fit into any of that? Well, a lot of that stuff, the data sometimes is built in the cloud for expediency, but then once they're ready for it to go into production, for example, then a lot of customers are bringing it back on premise, right? And so that's where we can help out with that. We're all talking ONTAP, and either we can replicate back and forth while you're doing your development, or if you want to keep it in production, that's fine. We can still back up down to on-prem, and or we can, if you decide to go on-prem first and then later go to the cloud, we're the gateway. We can be the gateway to that cloud option. And like Roger was saying, the fan out capabilities, we can do like an example of 16-to-1 fan out on our replication, right? Or 1-to-16. So if you wanted to make backup copies in every cloud provider if possible that talks ONTAP, you could do that. It's the cloud sounds great. I have seen very few customers that went all in on the cloud, and if they did, they didn't stay there very long. And so really hybrid is going to be where it's at. So there's always going to be an on-premise capability there or need, and that's where we can help out with that for sure.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, hybrid. I agree. Hybrid is the way to go, because I think I've seen that as being a primary topic that majority of my partners always want to discuss.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I forgot to mention, the second part of it is in bringing cloud back down to on-premise. A lot of people don't realize that ONTAP has native S3 capabilities. So a lot of times when you hear off the bat, or it's an easy side door discussion of, let's talk about backups to the cloud. Let's talk about backups to S3. Well, that sounds great if you're never planning on touching that data again. If it's just long-term 10-year retention and you want to put it in S3, then sure, that sounds right. However, what we see is a lot of applications are utilizing S3 today in production. And so they're constantly sending it up and bringing it back down. And that's when they start getting the sticker shock monthly bills, right? Until they realize that they could actually use ONTAP and have an S3 internal cloud or private cloud on-prem, and now their applications can write the S3 that they wanted, but not have to pay those egress charges, right? So that, in fact, I just recently installed multi-petabytes in a large national retailer that they're utilizing multi-node clusters, either 6 or 8 node clusters of NVMe flash attached to hybrid arrays running S3, and then they're tiering back and forth between them. So their raw data is coming in as quickly as possible to the NVMe and kind of being staged, and then it's tiering off to the S3. And because it's all in the same cluster, the data is traveling over the cluster interconnect at like NFS speeds, and they're not having to go over the core network and or to the cloud to retrieve that data back and forth. So they've been very, very pleased with the solution.
Perfect. So Ron, as we're kind of still talking about functionality here, I want to kind of piggyback on the question I asked Mark. If I use like a retail or healthcare scenario, it sounds like that would be like an ideal scenario where Veeam's, 3210 backup rule really would be crucial. Can you tell us what that is and really, give us an example of how it could be
Yeah,
implemented?
yeah, no, for sure. So 321 has been as a concept has been around for honestly decades. I think and the idea is we want your backups to be resilient. I mean it's obviously better to have a backup than it is to have no backups, but in the best possible case, you should have multiples, and you should help to ensure that they're resilient. So for instance, the three is three copies of your data. So if that's for instance, if you're maybe a healthcare organization, you've got my primary backups on a DE series, either I'm using storage replication or I'm making, Veeam backup copies to a secondary site, a colo site, or a satellite office that has some, storage and compute capabilities. And then I've got a tertiary copy as well, whether that's, whether it's tape, whether it's object, whether it's some, it's a JBOD somewhere else, right? And then two different media as well. So it's if you can only do I've got two Windows repositories and then the Linux repository. Well, that's sort of two different media. What we think is if I've got a primary and a secondary disk-based backup, maybe I have a tertiary tape backup, or maybe I have a tertiary object storage backup in the cloud, or like Mark mentioned on-prem. Honestly, it's just an API endpoint to us. We don't care one way or the other. And then one offsite. So one, if you have a physical disaster, if you have fire, flood, tornado, etc., we want to make sure that all your backups aren't sitting in your primary data center, of course. And then we can actually take 321 a couple steps further. One, we really want ideally one of these copies to be air gapped. Now, I know people poo-poo tape, even though tape continues to evolve. We're now in iteration LTO9, which has tremendous raw storage capabilities. A tape, in a ransomware world, is a tape that's not in your library is completely invulnerable to ransomware. So, tape still has its place in the IT, in your IT strategy, possibly. Short of that, some sort of immutable backup. We've already mentioned some of the native capabilities within ONTAP. With a lot of the S3 providers support immutability as well, both on-prem and cloud. And then we've also evolved our capabilities so that we can take advantage of some of the Linux file systems that have immutable capabilities for Linux repositories to make sure those backups are immutable. And then we, again, we take it one step further. Obviously, you need backups. You need to have backups, particularly for long-term retention. But then we can add some capabilities to make sure that not only do you have backups, but those backups are in fact recoverable.
So Mark and Roger, here, as I'm hearing the solutions we kind of discussed so far, it's kind of reminding me of a use case that one of my partners really, discussed with us last week about data lakes for big data, which really stores large amounts of data that is, raw in its format and really it's native. What is, the way I see it is really this data is really, just waiting to be processed or analyzed. Essentially, what I see is that, these data lakes are really, they're flat architecture that store data primarily in files or object storage. Can you kind of help us understand what solutions, from Lenovo that, that could really fulfill that need? If we could start with Mark and then, follow that up with Roger. Oh, hey, you're on mute.
Happens every time. Yeah, it kind of falls into similar to what I was talking about a minute ago about the being a S3 on-prem, right? So we have it's called flex groups is what the architecture is called, and basically what we would do is if we had a multi-node cluster, depending on how big your data lake needed to be, we could actually span that storage across all the nodes in the cluster, so it would be a shared data pool. and then you would actually have parallelized compute from the multiple controllers being able to access that same pool, reading and writing from the same pool, and you'd be able to utilize the compute and memory resources of each one of those controllers, and it really helps with data locality as well as performance and so forth. And now you have that single namespace that has been tested out to 20 plus petabytes.
Roger?
Yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of ONTAP. It's from a DM 3000, 5000, we can scale from single digit terabytes to scale up to a DM 7100H, give us 11.2 petabytes of raw storage capacity. We can then scale that out to 134 petabytes if it's a NAS, and I think it's 67 petabytes for a SAN. So we can build some very robust lakes. We have S3 potential capability, like Mark talked about, but also the file protocols, because we still see a lot of NFS and a lot of environments for data lakes. It's just an easy, quick way to get connected to a large Linux server farm. There's SMB for some of those Windows shops if they want to get in there and connect to it that way. And the beauty is if it's file, you can connect to the files through both NFS and CIF. So it gives you a lot of different flexibility for your data lake. So you're not going to have that single use tool. You're going to have multiple ways to get to your data. You're going to have multiple ways to store the data, and all the features are in there. And then, as we talked about before with some of these cloud movers, if you want to get up to the cloud, you can do it. Like we can put it there. Hey, I've done my data lake. I've done my analysis. I want to keep the data somewhere for the next 10 years for regulatory reasons, but I don't want it on my prem. Let's stick it into infrequent access S3 up in the cloud. That's fine. If somebody asks for it, we have a 1 week SLA. Let's save some money. So ONTAP makes a great data lake. You can start small and grow as big as you want. And you can mix and match nodes. You can mix and match media types. So you can start off with a chunk of your data lake being high performance flash. You can get the hard work done. Maybe there's some, more regular access. You take that and you move it to a somewhat slower tier. When that ages out, boom, put it to the cloud, rinse, repeat.
Yeah, and real quick, I just wanted to mention, he just mentioned high performance flash. A lot of customers, when they hear that, they automatically hear cash registers go off, cha-ching, right? So, but just to give you an example, I can get a customer today because of our licensing models that we have that we've partnered with NetApp on. I'm able to get a customer into an NVMe entry-level system for sub 15K, right? So high performance flash doesn't have to mean $100,000, $1 million. We can definitely work within a customer's budget.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, they're basically the price point is affordable. I see that. Perfect. Yeah. So then, Ron, we have some SMB partners on the call today that might be really thinking that that their customers are probably just too small to really get hit with ransomware or malware attack. And I've actually had this conversation with a lot of partners before. So and they don't really see that they need to have a backup or disaster recovery plan. What advice can you give those partners really about approaching their customers and how they can actually about being proactive, really vigilant against the external and even internal threats?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So one of the things that we do annually at Veeam is we commission, what we think is actually the biggest data protection, strategy, survey in the industry. We commission a third party to do this. And last year, October through December of last year, we surveyed a little over 3,000 IT decision makers across, I think, 28 different countries. Now, admittedly, the majority were organizations with 1,000 employees or more, but certainly not all. So, but the one statistic that came out of that I think all businesses should be aware of is that 76% reported some sort of cyber attack over the year. And I guess from an SMB perspective, actually your size doesn't really matter that much. The only thing that really matters is whether or not the cyber gangs think that you would be able to pay. So if they think you would be able to pay, you're a target, no matter how large or small your organization is. And you think of, all of us have a friend or a family member or acquaintance that's been phished, right, and has suffered some kind of either just if it's just identity theft, or if it's, where the, person cyber gang got access to your bank account and actually, move money, installed malware, on their machine. I mean, we all know someone that does this. And if individuals, and I'm not saying, even high net worth individuals, they pretty much go after any individual. If it's profitable enough for them to do that, it's definitely profitable enough for them to go after an SMB. So, I don't think that any business should somehow consider themselves exempt because of their size from a ransomware attack.
Okay. Yeah. So also, Ron, I see both Veeam on 2022 and really Lenovo's Accelerate events starting on May 17th in Las Vegas. It sounds like a great reason to take a trip out to Las Vegas. So what can we expect from Veeam at that event?
Yeah, 2 for 1. So it'll be awesome. I'll actually be there, bouncing between both events as well. So of course you're going to hear a lot about version 12. So version 12 has been in the works for a long time. Like the chat question alluded to, you're going to hear a lot about object storage and what we're doing with object storage. You'll probably also hear about possibly Salesforce and our evolution with Office 365 backups. Plus lots of other good stuff, I'm sure.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, and finally, I have a question for all three of you. Really as technology leaders, what makes you feel excited or inspired, really about what you've been hearing or even seeing from your customers? Let's start with Mark. What are you hearing?
A lot of AI, a lot of NVIDIA conversations, a lot of containers. I think Kubernetes and containers and so forth are finally starting to gain traction in production. And it's kind of where virtual machines were 15 years ago. I think it's finally starting to ramp up. And the beautiful thing is that DM is fully supported for that, and from a persistent volume standpoint. And we have the servers and the switches in the stores to help out with that environment.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks. Ron, what are you hearing from your customers?
Well, yeah, since you have kind of on a ransomware theme here at the end, that was on my mind. So I just want to leave you all with maybe some good news, right? So it seems like we only ever hear bad news about how pervasive ransomware is, how the attacks are increasing, how the virulence of the attacks are increasing, how you do double and triple extortion, all of that stuff, right? But based on the customer surveys we do, based on the information we have, particularly for Veeam customers, actual data loss, material downtime, economic impact, those are all actually declining over time for particularly, I'm sure for all customers that have practiced good data hygiene, right? But particularly for Veeam customers, the one thing that came out of one of the surveys we did is that you have a lot of customers that actually have events. But 92% of our customers reported, zero material loss, of time, of money, of obviously paying ransomware, not paying the ransom, over the last year particularly. So yeah, you can be encouraged by that. It's not all bad news.
And so it's always good to have some good news there. Roger, what are your customers saying?
I'm really excited. I'm from what I'm hearing from them is just all the new stuff that's going on. The AI, the ML. From an IT perspective, what I'm really hearing from customers and friends is, for 15 years, IT was sort of a cost center, and we were tasked with keeping the lights green on all the boxes. But with AI and ML, and it's a lot of these pipelines are starting to become more attuned to business outcomes. They're starting to be brought into the development process more, and they're being included in these conversations like, hey, we have all this data sitting back here on this box that you guys have been maintaining for 10 years. How do we get the value out of that? And it's really cool as being that person who was in that spot for so long, where to see people suddenly going from being a cost center to a value provider to a company. And then I'm really seeing that happen in IT, especially with some of the what you would have thought was just a maintenance job for the longest time. Your storage admin, your virtualization admins, they're becoming, experts and leaders in the company. It's just really cool to see that happen, because it was demoralizing for a while. And now it's the people are getting the respect they need. It's like, it's Rodney Dangerfield. Your storage admin got no respect for 20
That's
years.
true.
And now it's like, I own the data. I have the money, baby.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why it's cool.
Everybody thought we were Homer, just pushing that red button all day long. Yeah.
I like
Lights
that.
green. Lights red. Reset it. Receive the drive. All right, ship it a new one. No, we're here and we're providing value, and it's great.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
So
yeah.
true.
Awesome. That's great.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for all that great insight. And I like the Homer and the Dart Rodney Dangerfield talk there. That was really good. Yeah. That, like I said, it's always a great conversation when I get these guys on the call. So, unfortunately we're almost cut. We're actually a little bit even over out of time, but I just wanted to kind of be really respectful of your time. So, one thing I wanted to mention is please remember, if you need help starting a conversation with your customers about this or any other topic, really for that matter, please look to Ingram Micro to help you connect the dots. Let me start by saying thank you to everyone in the audience today. I know some people actually had a problem getting the link or getting their registration. If you see an issue or whatever, definitely reach out to me. I can definitely help you with that. And please be on the lookout for follow-ups from my counterpart Jamie Turkowski at Ingram Micro. She'll reach out to you. And then also a big thank you to my guests, Ron Martin of Veeam, Roger Yorish of NetApp, and Mark Clayton of Lenovo. I always look forward to collaborating with these guys. It's awesome. And finally, I have to thank Veeam, NetApp, and Lenovo organizations really for their continued support. That they let me let me spend an hour with these guys. Everyone, I can't really believe that we're already into Q2. 2022 is almost over already for me at this point. But as I always say, I want you to lead with empathy and make this your best year ever. So until we meet again, thank you and have a great day.
Have a great
Thanks,
one,
everyone.
everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
you.